Hello, everyone. I'm Lindsay Wallace, the Executive Director of FINCA Canada. Just to start things off, I want to acknowledge that I'm joining you from Toronto, the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. In honor of International Women's Day, we are shining a spotlight on women around the world who, through their own talent, wisdom, and work ethic, are tirelessly building a brighter future for themselves and their children. Since 1984, FINCA has been on a mission to eradicate poverty through sustainable financial solutions that address everyday challenges. And for over 40 years, we have placed women at the center of everything we do and are continuously innovating to design solutions that help them build stronger and more resilient futures. We know that when women are empowered, their communities, families, and entire economies are uplifted as well. The World Bank estimates a 1.7 trillion gender gap, and closing it could add another $5 to $6 trillion to global GDP. And when women gain access to financial tools, we know they invest 90% of it back into their families and communities, compared to 35% for men. In terms of financial services, we know that women are making meaningful progress in terms of access to finance, which is so critical for them to grow businesses and support their families. And we know that the gender gap between men and women accessing financial services has been narrowing, which is fantastic news. But even as access improves, there's still challenges in terms of using financial services, using digital tools, and about 700 million women worldwide still do not have access to active financial accounts, with most of them being in hard to reach rural areas. At FINCA, our work focuses on closing those gaps, getting more capital into the hands of more entrepreneurs who are excluded from financial systems, especially women. And we do this in two ways. First, by providing financial services to people who are unbanked or underbanked through a network of financial service subsidiaries around the world. And then also through impact investing, providing catalytic capital to promising early stage enterprises that share our commitment to driving social growth. But we don't just serve women, we also learn from them, invest in them, and build solutions with them. And so today I am delighted to be joined by three of my colleagues at FINCA, three women leaders who spend every day working to help women and women-led businesses thrive. And so for the next hour, we're hoping to have a really dynamic and exciting conversation about some of the work that we do around the globe to really help drive access to finance and impact for women and their families. First, I'm pleased to introduce Sibia Ngahimbaku, Deputy CEO of FINCA DRC. Sibia brings more than 18 years of leadership experience in banking operations and digital financial services. And she's held several key roles at FINCA, including head of IT and director of banking services, before taking on her current position, where she oversees IT, marketing, mobile, and digital business compliance and risk. She's deeply committed to expanding access to financial services for women in one of the most challenging operating environments in the world. Next, we have Winnie Mwangi, Managing Director of FINCA Ventures. Winnie leads FINCA's impact investing strategy and works with high potential social enterprises across sub-Saharan Africa. She brings more than 15 years of experience in venture capital and impact investing, supporting early stage companies that are improving lives across the continent. She's widely recognized for her commitment to investing in women founders and helping them to access the capital and networks that they need to scale. And our third speaker is Karijatu Najiru, FINCA's global product management consultant. Kari is a product development expert with deep experience in digital banking, renewable energy, and microfinance. Her work focuses on designing financial products that all women will actually use through human-centered design, behavioral insights, prototyping, and testing. And she's also deeply engaged in creating products that meet women where they are and reflect the full complexity of their financial lives. So I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you and to learn more about all of the work that we do to really help women get access to the financial tools and services that they need. And and really focusing on women's daily realities and how we can serve them better. Just in terms of the run of show, I just would encourage everyone to please think about some questions. We do have a Q&A box, and we will be answering them at the end. But I'm going to start first with you, Sibia. Can you help us understand the challenges that women experience when trying to access capital and what organizations like FINCA can do to support them better?
Thank you, Lindsay. I hope you can hear me and I'm quite audible. I'm speaking from Kinshasa, and DRC is a wonderful country, and I'm lucky to be part of FINCA and its network and the subsidiaries that are providing finances for women. So that I'll give a little bit of context to our story. FINCA DRC operates in a country of 2.3 square kilometers. So it's a huge square kilometers. So it's a huge country, almost the size of 3 others, the second largest in Africa. But it has a lot of challenges. It's shaped by ongoing conflict that have been ongoing for the past 30 years. And we have one that is actually active right now in the East. And this has not gone without any consequences. The country has very limited infrastructure. You could imagine that for such a huge country with huge potential and minerals and resources, but we only have 160,000 kilometers of paved road. So getting from one point to another, if you want to visit another city, most of the time you have to fly. And sometimes if it is on the other side of the country, flying to another country is actually much better because the road network is very difficult. So for women, this becomes more difficult for them because sometimes they don't have the resources to fly. So there are kind of limitations there already in terms of infrastructure. Other barriers also that restrict women for being from having financial autonomy is also some of the gender norms that are there by culture. But we thank the government that have been trying to do a lot of positive things, because right now, for example, there was one that I always found ridiculous since I was a young girl that was banished, is that women had to get a written permission from their husbands to apply, not even to sign a contract, but to apply for a job. And I can go on and on about the difficulties, like the lack of IDs. We don't have a country ID, so there are 4 types of IDs, and sometimes even getting them is not that easy. Because there's also low trust into formal institution. It's not always guaranteed that you get what you're requesting. And this brings about a lot of high opportunity cost of travel when you develop technologies that allow women to access services close to their household. But despite all these challenges, women are the ones that are driving the community growth. They're the ones that dominate the local market in terms of agriculture and trade, with all the small businesses that they're running. Even when there is an issue, they're the ones that actually act as a financial backbone of the home. And when the mother is sick or cannot tend to her business, then you will see that the whole household will not be able to function properly. And still, they try as much as possible to reinvest the income into their families. And I think this is something that you have said also, that 90% of the income that women generate goes back into the family. And we can see this on how they define success. For many of our customers, when you are going to ask them, how are you doing? How is your business doing? They will tell you 1 or 2 things. The first thing is, my children are going back to school. See my child and what they have been able to achieve. I have 3 doctors, 4 engineers. So the success or the pride that they will have will be on what they have been able to achieve, or how they have been able to put their children through school. The second thing will be they'll show you probably how they have improved the household, that now my children are more comfortable. I've been able to buy them a TV, or now we have a fridge. I no longer have to run to the market every day. I can at least store the food here. All the income will still go back to the household. So this gives us meaning. And our job is not only to give them access to a loan that they dearly need, but also in some ways is to get closer to them, faster to them, and make sure that when they're accessing our services, we are as fast as possible. We need safe points of access, because also one thing that I did not mention, we also have one of the highest rates in terms of women gender-based violences in the world. So we need a safe environment for them to be able to transact, where they don't have to travel too much or lose their day's income and spending transport to reach us. And also making sure that we continue to serve the community. The country is huge and is crossed with a big river, which is the second largest river in the world, the River Congo, which means that we are prone to floods all over the country. Whenever it rains, for some households, even actually in Kinshasa, when it's raining, we know that it's going to flood. And when it's flooding, someone is going to be impacted. So we need to make sure that our services are available throughout these challenges. When the weather is not agreeing with us, or the network is not working perfectly, we need to find solutions to make sure that our customer can still rely on us and access services. And all this with the most and utmost simplicity when it comes to accessing the services, in terms of also the administrative steps that they have to take. We need to have that in the back of our mind, because they're already facing many challenges. And when they come to us, the service needs to be seamless as much as possible. And this also is reflected also in the suite of product that we are offering to our client, making sure that we are tackling this challenge also of simplicity and access throughout all these challenges that we are having in our market, where low income and people with irregular income are already challenged by many things. So our product need to make sure that we are still available even when no one expects us to be there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sibia. That was really inspiring. And I think, yeah, it's important we remember the various barriers, the physical barriers, the information barriers. That's why it's so important that we've been relying on technology. I know that FINCA DRC has 35 branches, but 1,700 agents around the country. And so it's so digital technologies are so critical to helping us get access. And I absolutely, we need to be there for the clients and understand things from their point of view. I think, just building on that a little bit, I just would like to turn to Winnie, because you spoke very well, Sibia, about some of the physical barriers that women face. And then Winnie, I know that you're focused on women-led enterprises and investing in them through FINCA Ventures. Can you just speak a little bit about the type of challenges that women entrepreneurs and women who are looking to set up social enterprises face, and what role has FINCA Ventures played in helping them to navigate some of these challenges?
Yeah, thanks, Lindsay. And I think Sibia set the stage really well by describing the operational challenges that do exist in just the day-to-day operations or access to capital for women. What we're seeing in the venture side is that most women face challenges in accessing capital, patient capital for their businesses. So as a fund, we invest in high impact social enterprises in sub-Saharan Africa through FINCA Ventures. And despite what we're seeing in the buzz of the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Africa, a small portion of capital is actually being deployed to women-led businesses. So as of last year, the statistics show that of the 1% venture capital that came to Africa, a small share of that was actually invested in women founders. And, yet Sibia pointed it out, women are much closer to challenges that we face in the environments, in the ecosystem, in the economies, and they're best suited to actually develop solutions to address some of these critical challenges. So the key challenge that they face when they try to access capital is actually getting capital that meets their needs in terms of being patient capital, capital that's risk tolerant, and that enables them to grow sustainably. So the market is, the capital markets are actually shaped to fund businesses that are almost high growth, and are forgetting to adjust some of these requirements for businesses that are in the deep resilience sectors that require a different type of capital. So that's one challenge that these businesses face, despite these businesses being fundamentally strong. Beyond capital, most of these women also face challenges around structural support. And to me, I believe beyond financial capital, the value add that you provide to businesses really make the difference. And women still face challenges in accessing some of these support networks, mentorship, although to some extent we're seeing a lot more women being mentored. And I'll pick from a quote one of our entrepreneurs mentioned, that women tend to be over-mentored and underfunded. So it's great to see that we're seeing that coming through, but then we need to see capital flow. The other challenge around, again, technical expertise when it comes to the sectors that these women invest in, like agriculture and healthcare, specifically agriculture, you need some form of technical support. And we at FINCA Ventures actually tap into our network of sector experts to provide some form of technical expertise to women in the agribusiness space or the healthcare space. And this, again, goes a long way to help build resilience in these businesses. And lastly, access to markets. It is a big deal, obviously. You need to sell your products and services. So women still face a challenge of gaining access to some of these big markets that then prove, financial viability of their ventures.
Thanks, Winnie. Can you maybe share a couple examples of some of the investees, FINCA investees that you have that might have women founders, and any ideas about, yeah, some of the challenges that they may have faced?
Yeah, so we've got a couple. So I'll highlight two. One is a business in Nigeria, MDAS. One of the co-founders, Genevieve, is a female, and the business model of MDAS is to provide convenient access to affordable diagnostic services, mainly in tier 2 cities in Nigeria, and essentially helping patients have access to early diagnostic services and treatment options. And 60% of the patients for MDAS are actually women. And the services provided are really centered around preventative diagnostic procedures like mammography, ultrasounds, and pap smears. So we can see that this is actually a business that benefits, a service that's required by women, and also, benefits in terms of health outcomes, which then means that women are able to then conduct businesses, able to contribute positively to the economy. I think the challenge that we've seen is some of this particular model targets tier 2 markets, and you'll find that most investors tend to play in the urban, in businesses that are serving the urban market. And therefore, that means is that these kind of models are underserved. So it's taken a lot for the founder to think creatively on how to access capital, and also how to overcome some of the systemic barriers that exist in the market. So, for example, as you know, in Nigeria, often you have power cuts. And so that means if there are power cuts, then a diagnostic center cannot function properly. But obviously, there's a thought process around how can solar power be incorporated in some of those diagnostic centers. So what the government and institutions cannot do, MDAS has been able to think through creative ways of ensuring that their model still is able to sustain the kind of the test of time and environment to serve this women population. The second business is Penda Health, which is based here in Kenya. And the co-founder is Stephanie, who's a female founder, and she runs a chain of outpatient primary care centers across Kenya. And I've known Penda Health for such a long time. And I think when Stephanie started off this business, it was a bold move. It was a bold move. It was a time in the market where no one really thought much about setting up, standardized professional healthcare centers in some of the low-income areas that Penda Health operates in. And most of this, obviously outpatient clinics are servicing women as particularly maternal health, which is important. We've really heard about stories where women die after giving birth, which really should not be the case. So Penda Health is really addressing some of these challenges, providing the prenatal and postpartum care programs, and have grown and expanded really well, built a brand name, but also have been able to demonstrate impact. So those are the two examples I can give. And what has enabled us also as a fund in the way we operate, we obviously a women-led fund. We're all women leadership team. And what that means, even beyond our portfolio companies, how we think about allocating capital, the decision makers have to also have female representation and understanding of the type of risks that women-led businesses face, and how do we look at them differently in a way that we have an understanding of the sectors they operate in, but also we see the potential and the opportunity in the market. So that's what really drives our capital towards that. We've achieved a portfolio of women-led businesses of 41% as we see it right now. And we've invested in those critical sectors, again, that touch the women. So I've given examples of the healthcare space. Through our annual prize competition, we've also seen a lot of women-led business participating. So an example is Kazi Yetu, a Tanzanian-based business in the agriculture space. And what they do is they source herbs, teas, spices from Tanzania and distribute them locally, but also are exporting to international markets. This business employs 100% women. So we're seeing women now being represented in the value chain, and also demonstrating the impact that, Sibia mentioned around women tend to deploy capital, not just to when they earn an income, 90% of that goes into their communities and to the relevant sectors. So as FINCA Ventures, we're really playing on those critical sectors that are serving these women. And lastly, we Rio Fish, which is a business that's in the, again, agribusiness, aquaculture space. And the female founder, Angela Odero, is really looking to, fight the exploitation in this particular sector by connecting smallholder fish farmers to women traders in the market and really stabilizing that cold chain in the process.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for those examples, Winnie. And I mean, a few things that I took away from it is one, I love the idea of, women-led businesses focusing and really deeply understanding women's challenges, prenatal, maternal, diagnostic. And then also the fact that you're a women-led fund and a woman-led and all women fund team, really honing in and understanding those challenges that women face. And I think obviously you bring a very different perspective than your typical fund manager. And so I think that's fantastic. Just turning to you now, Kari, um, you know, a big part of the work that we do, both across our investees as well as across all of our financial services companies, we're really trying to make sure that we understand the needs of the clients and design products to serve them and to learn from them. Can you just speak a little bit about how FINCA centers women's experience in our product design or in the work that we do with our FINCA Ventures investees?
Yeah, thank you, Lindsay. I think a lot of the work that we do at the Poverty Eradication Lab, or the lab, which in essence is FINCA's innovation hub, is really centered around deep exploration of women's challenges, deriving behavioral insights, and then working around prototyping solutions that we rapidly iterate and test in the market. It gives us the chance to really understand what women really need from financial services and in what way they need them. So when we rapidly prototype, we make sure we get feedback from these women and their experiences in the market, and then we embed some of their concerns and also the various ways in which they want the product to work back into the product. And so some of the recent discovery we've been doing in East Africa as the lab has shown us a couple of things that I think Sibia had echoed, but there's an additional layer to that. One of them is that it's often deemed that small women enterprises, especially women operating in very tough or harsh markets, are not ambitious enough, but it comes down to how they perceive risk. Sibia had mentioned something that was so important. I think a lot of the time as women, the success perspective is really around how well the families are faring, our children in school, and so on and so forth. And so the risk that they perceive is really consequence driven, where it's very easy for a failed loan to impact not just their credit score like you and I would see it, but really their family's welfare. That's their food security and also their household stability. So one failure can really set a woman back and sort of demean her confidence, even if she's quite ambitious and she wants to be able to grow her business and her income. Another thing that we are seeing, quite interestingly, is that there's a lot around asset-based collateral that's been a barrier for women. But a couple of things that's coming up is things in line with considering reputational-based capital. And that could be a woman who has a small shop and her community has known for a very long time that when you go to her and you plead your case, she's able to give you a couple of bags of salt or sugar on credit, and that she's someone who can be trusted. The challenge that exists is that these minor transactions or these nodes of information are not recorded anywhere, but they exist and it can be converted to reputational capital that can be used for lending. The other aspect is really understanding something that's central to our communities, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, and that's the aspect of caregiving responsibilities. Caregiving, often deemed as this invisible load, means that women, just like Sibia had mentioned, are worried about their safety, but also their mobility. They need to be closer to home because of these caregiving responsibilities. And so it makes them a bit uncertain when you ask them to come miles away to a branch in order for them to be able to gain access to financial services. When they do get there, the problem is then compounded because women who may not be at a certain level of education, who qualify based on metrics that we may not be looking at, are then pulled back a little bit and a bit afraid because they get into these branches, they see all of this branding, they see officers in the branch, and that can be a bit intimidating. And then they don't know how to go about really asking for, in essence, what they need. And then I would say the last bit of that is something that's so fundamental to what we are looking to explore at the lab. And that's this aspect of how, for a very long time in financial services, we believe that the siloed products are enough. But what our research is showing us is that the various aspects of women's needs and the things I've spoken about that circulate and surround their lives mean that these siloed products are not enough, and we need to begin to develop products that look at the real life constraints. Things like mobility, that's going to be a challenge in terms of also, as a woman, I need to be closer to home. How do I get to grow my business? How can I sell more without having to go very far? It's issues about, like I mentioned, asset-based collateral. How do we transform that? And just also understanding at a very fundamental level what small trade cash flows actually look like. All of those embedded into products are things that we are looking at and also considering from a lot of the research that we've been able to get. So I would then say some of the pilots that we've conducted recently that I would say are more gender focused include things like the Level Up product that we've been piloting, which in essence, we looked at it from the standpoint of how to cater to some of these women better. So it's a repeat loan where we've taken out the aspect of the need for collateral because we understand that that's the first barrier. But we've also worked around modifying many processes in-house on the basis of this product to ensure that the woman doesn't have to travel to the branch for multiple visits in order for her to sign off on her loan and get the disbursement. And so we go through a call center-led approach where these offers are made through the call center. And finally, when the woman gets her loan, some of the things that we suspect are reputational are now transformed where, because we have her credit history, we use an in-house credit score, and that in-house credit score is able to give us a better depiction of her behavior. And we also reward her good repayment behavior with something called a cashback incentive. And so the work that we do, like I mentioned, is really centered around listening to these women, building, piloting, and then basically validating and looking to then scale these solutions throughout the subsidiaries.
Thank you so much, Carrie. That's been really helpful to learn more about the work that you do at the lab. And certainly I know the Level Up loan has been a great success, and it's something I know we want to continue to expand across a number of different geographies. Sibia, I'm just going to turn back to you and just maybe if you could share a little bit more about how our women customers are experiencing some of the products that you have both in DRC, but also some of the things that Carrie touched on. How are they experiencing them in practice, and what are you hearing from your clients?
Actually, from our customer point of view, it is simple. They want access to the money, to the finances, that like she said, access to the capital. And when they access it, it has to be how will this be repaid? Will it fit the way that they earn? Because if it's in a different period where they cannot be able to repay, women are risk adverse. If they can't honor the commitment, many of them will shy away from such commitment. And in our case for DRC, our answer is yes to all of these. Can they access their money near them? Yes, we have developed an agency network for that. Will they have it when they need it? Yes, because we have made our processes so easy that to make sure that all the barriers are removed for them to access it as easily as possible. And will it fit how they earn and how they're going to repay? Yes, there's always going to be a match because we do an analysis, learning how the customer actually, how his cash flow functions, and this is how we are going to provide also the finance and allow them to repay the loan. But I want to touch base on the agency network, which is the largest in the country. Actually, we built it since 2011, and through this network, we've by listening to clients, like Kerry said, we've been adding product onto that. And today, the agency network not only processes more than 80% of our transaction, but 85% of our referrals. When we ask our clients where they heard about us, they always tell us that they've been hearing from us from the agency network. Yet the primary purpose of the agency network was to get closer to the customer. But with time, our customers have redefined what it means actually to them. For them, it's a place where they can get information about FINCA, where they can get reliable finance and hear about our product. And even one innovation behind it is that we have made the agents the ones actually to even sell some of our products, because they understand the language of the customer. They understand how they live with these customers. And when they have questions, they can relate to some of the things. And through the network, actually, we have seen that even when we involve women and let them take the lead, customers have the tendency to trust them more to do their transaction or to give them the correct information. When you have a woman that is facing the customer, there is that element of trust. And as you know, and as Carrie touched also on it, is that we are high tech, but also high human touch, so that the human being doesn't get lost into our human centric design. So these agents, they provide also shorter travel distance for women, and hence reduce the exposure to insecurity, because if we had to go with brick and mortar, especially in rural areas where there's no infrastructure and electricity, by the time it is 3 p.m., there's no time to stay at the branch. They have to go back. And if they have to travel distances, that is not favorable for them. And also it gives them also more privacy, because now with our digital channel, you can apply for a loan on your phone, receive it quietly, without the neighbors knowing or gossiping about you. Go and get some more stock and be able to sell, support your family. And all this at very low cost. And this also encourage them also to have time for saving, and also support their family, and be able to be really the pillar that they are already in the society. We have developed so many products around it, even a health facility that allow them that even when they are sick, they can pay a little monthly subscription that allow them to take care of their family without worrying about the huge fees for the hospital. And all this through digital channel. There are places where customers have never seen a FINCA branding. They cannot say that, they cannot have that excuse of shying away from fancy building, because it is actually their neighbor that is serving them. And I'll give an example of a lady in Kenge. Her name is Françoise. Françoise actually, when we met her, it was through financial education. And as she had a small business, we enrolled her as one of our agents. And she was the one that actually even was showing other women how to take the loan digitally. If they have a small business, they provide small information to one of our representatives that is there to help the agent. And afterwards, the loan is disbursed into their mobile, and her as the agent should be the one also to give them the cash that they will use to go and purchase stock or any other needs that they have specified into their loan application. So all our offers and design are tailored having the needs of the women in mind. And this customer that I'm describing is actually also one of the beneficiary of the work that we are doing with Gildan Foundation, giving economic opportunity to rural women in the depth of DRC, where even getting network is difficult and everything is going through 2G. I know in some parts of the world, 2G is no longer even a word. People might even say, when you mention 2G, because they're on 5G. But 60 rural women and girls are accessing financial services in the rural areas of Kenge and learning how to do sustainable agriculture that is environmental friendly, growing mushroom, caterpillars outside of the country, beekeeping, and also fish farming. And recently we even introduced poultry because we saw that there was a need on that side. And all these are well tailored to cater for these women. We also have a product, Juste pour elles, that is just for women, that is designed specifically for them, with all these barriers that have been removed. Like Carrie mentioned it, collateral is a big issue. In many of the cultures in DRC, women do not inherit land. And even when they get that opportunity, because of the stigma and all other cultural barriers, sometimes they tend to even put all these, the small land that they acquire in the name of the children to secure it from it being forcefully removed from them, and this product gives such women the ability to access higher funds with the little collateral that they have, and get better terms that are flexible, with a good rate that is also rewarding their loyalty, but also the way that they repay their loan. And we have also reimagined even group lending. VB loans now are also done in a way that is very flexible and accessible to women. Auto repeat loan, like Kerry mentioned, and with these are things that we take into account. If we know you, then there's no need for you to give us the same information all the time. And we put you through a fast track where you just go as quickly as possible with a better rate, because you have been our customer. We know you. We know your behavior. We are sure that you're going to repay us correctly. So all these examples, they really illustrate how we try to give women the possibility to access our services and overcome the barriers while building resilience. Because this is also one thing that is key. They want to make sure that they do not fail the family, that their business is resilient, that even if there is a shock that comes, they will be able to continue to provide for their family, making sure that everyone is doing well. When it comes to women, the empathy is so much towards the family. They're more inclined into, is my family doing well? And this is one thing that we keep seeing also when we are talking to them. They want their business to be resilient. And sometimes it's just one malaria that can put the whole business down, because you have been overburdened with health fees, and because everything in DRC, actually, there's no free health care. They have put recently maternity, but if you have malaria and other diseases, you still have to pay for everything. Even the needle sometimes that is going to be used to inject the medicine, you have to pay for it. So building resilience for our customer is very paramount to us. So because our business is really a high touch tech business model, and FINCA has been able to provide this unique way of giving services to millions of customers who have trusted us with their finances and how they want to, and their dreams, actually. So what needs to be solved now is, how can we continue to best deliver all this, especially in countries like DRC, where everything can be a risk. From one time you can be in a war, and before the war ends, there's going to be a road construction that is going to disrupt the whole market, because people are no longer able to access where they were selling. And before you even resolve this other one, there is a flood that is coming up. There are all sorts of risks that keep coming up. So we need to make sure that as we solve all this and try as much as possible to continue providing the service and scale it as quickly as possible, because our customer, they really rely on the services that we are providing, and we are the only lifeline that they have. If we do not provide the services to them, then who will? Because they're already excluded from the traditional systems that are supposed to give them access to capital. So I think I'll leave that with that question in mind. I can go on and on.
No, thank you,
It's,
Sibia. That's so inspiring, and certainly some key themes of how do we actually scale this much at a greater level. We are such an important lifeline to our clients and customers. The significant number of risks, but also the perspective that women take, who are looking more at the family. And so how do we make sure we manage risk and make sure we build our resilience? And, I think in DRC as well, I know we did a study a few years ago that showed that women agents actually outperform male agents in terms of the revenue that they're generating. And the reason that they perform better is because women agents attract more women clients. and women clients pay better. So, while there's a moral case, obviously, for increasing access to finance for women, there's also a very strong business case that I think gets forgotten about. But just getting back to one of the questions that I know we're all wrestling with, how do we do more of this? How can we do it at scale? How can we deliver greater products at a lower cost for our customers? I'm going to pass it back to Kari to tell us a little bit about some of the technology solutions that we're working on at the moment, because we really want to continue to grow and scale and have greater impact for women.
Yeah, I think the conversation around scaling is really built on two considerations. One is the in-house technology you have, um, and that we have as FINCA. And the second part is also the challenges of having or not having certain levels of outside infrastructure. A huge part of this recently that I've been navigating is issues to do with KYC. Whether or not there's a government database can impact your ability to deliver your product to the last mile. And so in our product development process, we currently use a manual prototype for products like Level Up. Think of it almost like being able to walk before you can run, to ensure that we are producing and developing products that are relevant to the woman and the market in general. So this means we spend a lot of time before we get into developing, involving elaborate forms of technology to know exactly what works. And so in spite of the fact that we've worked around this manual prototyping, we understand that for us to be able to scale the impact we see, where Level Up has an uptake of more than 40% of women, there are certain interventions we need to make. At a very micro level, we've been able to transition to using sort of agentic underwriting with our own in-house credit score called the FINCA score. But we are also using technology partners to be able to use different types of scoring methodologies, especially for new to bank customer acquisition. And so all of our banking operations basically at the moment, I would say, run to a very large extent on outdated technological systems that are not very agile. And that means that we can't really deliver these inclusive products in the manner in which we desire at scale to be able to touch base with some of the customers that Sibia had described. So it's extremely difficult and it can be very expensive. And so for us to ensure that pilots like Level Up are successful, we work with 361, which has been developed by FINCA as a technology platform to be able to act as the bridge that translates this product that has done so well at pilot stage into something that could be scaled very quickly, in line with also having integrations with the legacy system for this product to be really delivered at scale. So it's not just about digitizing the paperwork, which I think is something that we faced a challenge with quite a bit. But it's also about fostering something that we've gotten as feedback for the product, which is the fast end-to-end process and our ability to really deliver to the customer. When you have incentives like the cashback, think of it, when you get to 1,000 customers, you can't do that manually. And so to deliver on the cashback, where women tell us, we love this incentive because we buy groceries, I bought something for my child to go with to school. She has a new backpack or new pencils. That came from the cashback incentive. And so scaling that really requires that what we are doing at 361 is going to be the technology to really supercharge our ability to scale. And so there's always going to be numerous challenges, but we are working around the clock to ensure that all of the products that we develop not only work for the market, but that there's a technology engine that's going to allow it to scale.
Wonderful. Thank you, Carrie. And I know we're all very excited about 361 and the opportunity that it'll provide to reach more clients with better products at lower costs. I've got a few questions in the Q&A, and I'm gonna pitch this first one to Winnie. The question is, how much capital do the companies that you're working with need? Are we talking about tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands, or millions or more?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So at FINCA Ventures, our focus is on businesses that are between the seed stage and the Series A stage. And in terms of quantum of capital, that's usually $250,000 up to $1 million in capital. And typically, we will make the initial investment and reserve some capital to make follow-on investments. We've seen businesses that are coming in to secure the first round of capital are likely to raise capital, more capital going forward. So as responsible investors, we ensure that we also do participate in that follow-on round of capital so that we are now, again, providing the enough runway for the business to actually grow and then eventually attract much bigger investors.
Thanks, Winnie. And I know we've had a pretty successful track record of attracting follow-on capital from our original investees. Um, Sibia, here's one for you. In your many years at Finca, what change in technology or process was most impactful in expanding the delivery of financial services in such a huge country?
Wow, that's a great question. But I really can't pick one, but I'll pick two. Of course, the agency network was one of the game changer because this drastically reduced the distance and the cost for our customer to reach us. And two, our application Click, which allows us to open accounts in the field and deliver even loans through the same channel. So we are able to scale our business model through these two, even in rural areas where there's no technology. All we need is just one POS device and a mobile phone, and we are sorted. Finca can start to operate. So those two go hand in hand, and they were the greatest changes and the best decision we ever made.
Great, thank you. And I think certainly we've seen such a great impact of the rollout of our digital technology. So that's very helpful. Someone asked, what is 361? And Kari, I know you spoke about it, and I think I mentioned it as well, but maybe if you could just give a little bit more of an explanation as to what 361 is.
Yeah, so if I could just explain that in a very basic sense. In essence, it's an operating platform that allows us to get over the rigidity of the difficulty we often have in our existing core banking system of basically configuring products. It can be quite cumbersome to configure products with specific parameters in existing core banking systems. And so 361 as an operating platform acts in such a way that it's able to use various forms of events to enact certain actions that need to take place. So if, for example, you need 361 to be able to send certain transactions and have automated SMSs on the back end that go to a customer that are triggered by certain actions, that can happen. But also to a very large extent, it works on the end-to-end digitization of product workflows in order to have certain levels of automation. So in the event of level up, the cashback, for example, is automated, and through a simple disbursement button on a tablet-based system, an officer is able to make a disbursement automatically once all the approvals have taken place on the platform.
Thank you very much. And I remember somebody also explaining to me that if we think of 361, it's like Spotify, the platform that people use to choose their musical selections. Whereas a lot of core banking systems are, and I'm probably older than everyone here, but those old cassette tapes that we all used to record, you have a playlist, but it's fairly rigid and you can't really change it unless you go in. And it's very, very complicated and costly. Whereas the 361 is a platform that allows us to design much more personalized products that serve a wider variety of customers. Let me see. There's a few more questions here. Someone asked, is there a list of countries where Finca has relationships? Would somebody starting a business in Uganda use Finca services? And I would say yes. If you visit our website, we have active subsidiaries in 13 countries around the world, And we're also investing in a number of businesses in other countries across Africa. So I just encourage you to visit our website for more information. But yes, FINCA Uganda is a very important subsidiary of ours. Oh, here's one that's come through. Which woman should be the next United Nations Secretary General? Any thoughts or ideas? No?
I would say it needs to be a woman who understands women and
Yeah.
from from different angles, from lived experience, from challenges that women are facing, whether in policy making or operations or as entrepreneurs. So it needs to be a woman who actually encompasses all women. So if I'm to describe that particular woman, they have to bring that to the table.
I would 100% agree. Yeah, I think it's, when you think about that figure that always shocks me, 90% of what a woman makes will go to her family compared to the 35 for men. I think if we were to do that at a political level, there might be, we would just see very different outcomes. And I think that's a really big theme that we spoke on today, how much women really focus on the outcomes for their family, focus on resilience. I think different risk perceptions are very much driven by that need to serve the family, serve the community. So yeah, that was a interesting question. Um, and let me just see how we're doing. We've got 3 more minutes. Here's one, actually, I think from one of Finca Canada's supporters. I'd love to hear more about recognizing and funding individuals with reputational capital. Perhaps are these individuals perhaps something like the mother trees of the social ecosystem, as we have in biology? They are the hubs of the communications in society which nurture the whole of society. I think that's very similar to what we were just touching on. So, Sibia, do you want to say anything maybe about just reiterating some of the work that you're doing in terms of, group lending and social capital?
I think this product, the way it was just imagined is just wonderful. Women being able to rely on each other as collateral, because some of these women, they literally have nothing. You come and there is a small table with a few items. We even had one that started with 5 kgs of sugar to start her business. What can 5 kilos of sugar really do? But once you're in a group and you're selling these 5 kilograms of sugar in a rural area, that is a lot for some women. And that cohesion and the women supporting women going on is just wonderful. And when we are able to deliver that as efficiently as possible, there is always magic that is happening through that. Yeah.
Wonderful. While I have you here as well, there was a question, are loans repaid with interest? And the answer is yes. If yes, what are the rate? Now, just to say that, that will look different in different geographies, but maybe just the juste per L. I believe the interest rates are very reasonable there.
So for Just Purell, what we have done, they are paying 30% less than men. And because our interest rate is layered according to amount that you're taking, also that the risk that you're bearing. So the percentage is very much lower than it is for men.
Fantastic. Um, Lindsay, is there anything people in North America can do to support FINCA beyond donating? Well, I mean, certainly we welcome and we value your support. I encourage everybody to visit our website. There's a lot more information there. But I think, in addition to and fundraising is part of what we do, but we also want to fundraise. I think certainly, for those of you that are interested in FINCA and the work we do, we encourage you to share more about us. We encourage you to amplify what we're doing on our social media, to share some of the research that we're putting out. We're doing a lot of really interesting research across our programs. And yeah, just to continue to mention FINCA and to share more about FINCA amongst your community. Um, Here's one. Does FINCA offer insurance products to its clients, as this can help mitigate some risks, as we have discussed today? And so generally the answer is yes, but it looks different in different geographies. But Sibia, I've got you on the spot, so I'm going to ask maybe just to comment on any insurance that you provide in DRC.
Gladly. So we have life insurance that is provided for our clients. Then with recent partnership, we are able to also offer health insurance that is coupled with a savings product. And DRC for a long time was in a monopoly of insurance, but now that the market has been open, let's wait and see what we will come up with, because the Poverty Lab is there to support, definitely. So we know that we'll come up with great things for our customer so that we can de-risk as much as possible their activities, but also provide them support and resilience.
Wonderful. Well, I see we've actually gone over time. It has been an honor for me to share the stage with my fantastic colleagues. I'm always so inspired by the work that everyone does. Big thank you to everybody who dialed in, and yeah, we look forward to continuing to serve women and all of our clients, and wish everybody a very happy International Women's Day. And big thank you to my colleagues around the globe. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.